Blossom holds his ears and grits his teeth, glancing up at the towering elven man who is fixated on Irina. The cries of pained voices resonate around him. Ismark squints, barely able to handle the noise.
Pleasure to see you again, Rahadin,
he states, slightly grimacing. My master sends his regards and wants you to know he is deeply saddened by the passing of one of his governors. Rahadin glares at the siblings. He would have been here himself, but he is a very busy man. The corner of the elf's mouth rises. Ismark instinctively steps in front of Irina.
I appreciate the Lord's attentiveness to our predicament. Please let him know how grateful we are for his kind regards.
Ismark sternly stares back. Damon begins observing the elf with great intensity, analysing his body language, carefully listening to the nuances of his words, and wondering the reason for the harrowing screams. He notices how he is confident, relaxed and controlled, dressed in a cape with a familiar raven over a tower embroidered into it. Ravenloft, Damon whispers to himself, finally recalling the symbol. Rahadin gives a sly eye towards him, acknowledging the presence of the party, and with a half smile, he pulls his focus back to the nobles. He points with his thick, sharp fingernail to Irina. And Tatiana, my master wishes for me to remind you of the invitation he gave you so many years ago to visit Castle Ravenloft. Damon openly calls out to Ains in a coded tongue. Don't trust him, no matter what he offers. The drow responds with a firm nod. Rahadin screws up his face for a moment, insulted by the lack of manners, before adjusting his face into a welcoming smile. New arrivals, are you not?
Hello, Blossom.
The small orc points to himself, before offering to shake his hand. The grey elf leans down low and pinches the end of his magenta glove. Pleasure. I am Rahadin. I serve Lord Strahd von Zorovich. He bows his head with respect.
Pleased to meet you.
Aru stares with suspicion. I recommend you formally introduce yourself in person to the Lord at some point. Rahadin softly shrugs. It would be polite. He lowers his brow and glares at Damon, recognizing his authority in the group. I heard the forests are pretty dangerous. How are we going to get there? Donnie bluntly asks. If you wish, I could take you with me in the carriage. He floats his arm in the air, pointing to the front of the church. His eyes lock with the nobles. Tatiana, you and the lesser are welcome to join too. He devilishly grins. The party moves their eyes across one another with concern.
Oh, we're busy. Got the job.
Blossom rapidly responds.
Rentek?
He points to the skies. The elf sighs with mild annoyance, but bows his head acceptingly. I will be in town for a while, collecting taxes. If you shall change your mind, do not hesitate to ask. He gives Irina a final elongated stare before turning and exiting the graveyard. As he walks away, the screams follow.
Bye-bye, noisy man.
Blossom cheerfully waves. Huh, he seems to be a pretty cool dude. Yeah. Donnie rolls his eyes.
Yeah, a real smooth talker.
Aru grumbles like she had a bad taste in her mouth. Yeah, nothing weird at all. The drow scoffs.
Yes, very nice.
Blossom gives a warm smile, not realizing the others are being sarcastic. Honestly, though, I think we should take him up on that offer. Donnie shrugs. You just don't want to walk. Ains teases the turtle. The guy is literally surrounded by wailing screams, possibly ghosts, demons, or worse, and you'll risk it to not get some exercise. Hey, you try carrying your house on your back and tell me your legs aren't tired. Donnie growls at the drow. All right, we are clearly not going with this man, and not because of his condition. Damon instructs the group. He is in league with Strahd, the one who is after Irina. The detective reminds his comrades and turns to the nobles. We gave our word to protect you, and I am not willing to break that promise. Ismark gives a sigh of relief.
Thank you.
I am curious, though. Why did he refer to you as Tatiana? Damon asks, intrigued.
Ever since I met Strahd when I was a young girl, he refuses to call me anything else. I'm
Not entirely sure why.
Irina wrinkles her nose.
Probably just another one of his tricks.
Ismark sharply nods.
He enjoys mind games.
I see. Damon rubs his chin. So, right, if he's collecting taxes, I bet that carriage has got a lot of lonely gold looking for a friend. Damon gives the drow a harsh and rageful stare.
It was just a suggestion.
He flings his burning hand into the air. We have no idea what he is capable of, Damon spits. If you want to steal, by all means, but know this, I'll not suffer for your mistakes. The cloaked rogue's smile drops, looking into the serious eyes of his comrade. Understood, boss, he softly recoils.
I think it will be inevitable. We shall meet Strahd eventually. He holds the power in this place.
Lucian smirks.
I, for one, look forward to it.
I am surrounded by madmen and imbeciles. Damon exhaustedly sighs and stares off into the distance. Blossom wanders into his view, following Rahadin humming an orc marching song. O Raven Queen, deliver me strength. He groans and chases after him. The Pink Wonder exits the front door of the church and stops to admire the carriage. It looks exactly like the one that brought the party into Barovia, white horses included. The cries of Doru can be heard calling out again, but Blossom is far too invested in the animals and attempts to pet them. Hello, old friend. He pats one of the horses with his spoon staff. The eyes of the creature are burning bright red, as if replaced with hot coals.
You okay, pony?
Damon catches up and lifts Blossom away like an ignorant child.
Hey, Hatman! Blossom down! Want to pet pony?
He struggles. Those are nightmares. Damon squawks. They are demons. As Blossom looks back at the horses, he sees their soft white fur turn charcoal black and flames erupt along their manes and tails. He turns back to the detective with a blank expression.
Want to pet the demon?
If you want to stay breathing, I strongly advise against it. Damon wearily sighs. Ains stares at the flaming steeds for a moment and turns to his companions. Speaking of fire, I've got a plan to deal with that ghost manor. Damon can feel all sense of rationality leaving the area. I will have nothing to do with this. He raises his arms in defeat and returns inside the church. Irina and Ismark appear at the threshold and plead to the turtle.
Please, wherever you're going, take us with you.
Sure, we're gonna go test a theory and burn down Durst Manor. Donnie nods.
Fine, just don't leave us alone with Rahadin around.
Ismark pleads, fearfully peering around the carriage.
He is not to be trifled with. Blossom protect!
The small one stands guard next to Irina, cautiously shifting his eyes over the local foliage.
We should study the house, find its source of power and claim it.
Lucian wickedly smiles. Ains and Donnie glance at each other for a moment before facing the warlock. Or we could just burn it down and see what happens. Donnie shrugs and lifts his hands. Yeah, I vote for fire. The drow nods and instinctively high-fives the wizard.
Very well, but I shall be an observer. If the dark force within retaliates, I want to be on good terms.
Lucian compromisingly agrees. Donnie turns to Ismark and Irina. Do you guys know any magic? Of the fire kind?
Father taught me a few spells to survive, but no fire, unfortunately.
Irina responds solemnly, her thoughts on the grave. The wizard smiles at Ismark, waiting for his response.
No. I did not have the coordination for such a skill. Father always said I was a man of words, not action.
Ismark sadly sighs. Guess it's up to us, boys. The turtle clinks his claws together. Yeah, let's go start a fire. Inside the church, Damon sits on one of the pews and cradles his head. Aru sits next to him. The bench cracks loudly under her weight. When I put this group together, I thought it would be easier than this. Damon pouts. Feels like I'm losing my way.
What? You expected fluffy rainbows and sugared trinkets?
Aru's voice echoes in the barren temple.
Leadership requires backbone. My father Grog ran the tribe with an armored fist, right until my mama was killed. So every time I wake up, I remind myself of my purpose. Revenge. And Doombringer willing, nothing will stop me. Know your purpose. You'll never lose your way.
Aru furiously growls. I suppose we're somewhat similar. You know the reason I'm here, Damon states with sadness in his voice, and finds himself naturally flowing into a monologue. I haven't heard from my mother in many years. She was ordered to protect the royal Fae court against what they called the Dark Powers. Being less a dabbler and more a student of the arcane, I searched everywhere to find a way of bringing her home. I heard tales of this land, of Barovia. Apparently these powers are more active here, and apparently the rumors were true. He looks over to Ains and Blossom talking outside by the carriage. But I would never have suggested you all come along on this journey if I knew we would be lured into a foggy prison by a sadist. Damon stressfully sighs. Aru chuckles softly.
Look, we all agreed to be here, be it seeking murderers, freeing mothers, or collecting kitchenware. But we followed you because we believe you can actually get things done.
Aru grins with hope.
I got my goal, you got yours. Doesn't mean we can't work together. As for the others...
She peers out to see Donnie leading the rest of the party down the road.
They might need some guidance, but that's what leaders are for.
The paladin puts a heavy hand on Damon's shoulder.
And good job we got one of the best.
Damon smirks and cordially pats Aru's arm, just as Donovich walks nervously into the altar room. The detective and paladin stand.
Oh, you mentioned perhaps aiding my son.
The priest's voice warbles with concern. I understand it's a personal matter, and I'm not here to cause you any problems. I am just here to help. Damon relaxes his gaze as the cries of his son can be clearly heard.
Please, I do not want the village to know. Will you keep this secret?
Donovich pleads. You have my word. Damon coaxes.
Not a peep.
Aru confirms.
Not too long ago, a wizard rallied the people to take the fight against Strahd.
The priest stares towards the symbol of the Morning Lord while talking.
My son Doru was among them. He was convinced this wizard could take the devil down for good. He was wrong.
The priest turns to Damon.
The Lord slaughtered the rebellious villagers and sent the heads to their families as a warning for further revolts. But with my son, the son of a priest, he did something different.
The man sits down on one of the pews. Damon mimics his action. Different how? Damon quizzes.
He changed him. He has the mark of the devil.
Donovich wipes a tear from his eye. I've heard this mark turns people violent, Damon sadly responds.
Yes, that is usually the case. But my Doru is strong. He is holding on to his humanity. But by Morning Lord's race, the cravings, they are torturous.
Donovich weeps softly into his hands.
What cravings?
Aru interjects.
He wants the blood of the living. Lately it is getting worse. He cries all the time. I've prayed for him to find relief, but his torment is never-ending.
The priest sobs.
Many others have resorted to killing the marked ones before they succumb to their urges. But he is my only child. I could not do that to him, so I locked him away in the crypt until I could figure this all out.
Damon rubs his stubble. I understand. He is family. Couldn't possibly expect you to harm him.
Thank you.
The priest gives a sigh of relief.
Do you know how to end such a curse?
I'm not entirely sure. Damon ponders. Perhaps if I could examine Doru, see the extent of his illness, he suggests. Donovich thinks for a moment, looking into the detective's mist-matched eyes.
Yes, but please do not hurt him. He is all I have.
Damon nods in agreement. Huge plumes of smoke rise over the village in the distance. The priest gulps and proceeds to lead the paladin and detective down into the catacombs. How long has he been locked down here? Damon curiously asks.
A few months.
The priest responds with a hint of guilt behind his words. And you said he hasn't eaten any food? Damon squints with concern.
In a manner of speaking, a few rabbits, deer, maybe some pigs, but he never stays satisfied for long. A few hours at best, and then he calls out to me again.
Donovich feels the weight of his burden. He leads the pair into an open room supported by several thin, crumbling pillars. Along the walls are old sealed tombs of priests who served before. In the furthest corner from the door is a skeleton-like figure, curled up, hiding from the torchlight.
Doru, my boy, you have visitors.
Donovich tries to sound enthusiastic. A dishevelled and famished-looking young man blinks softly, adjusting his eyes. He begins to salivate uncontrollably, reaching out gently toward Damon, his arm chained to the back wall.
Is the chain necessary?
Aru steps to Doru, who lunges at her with great speed, but is flung back towards the wall. Aru instinctively pulls out her axe.
Please, no!
Donovich shields his son.
He is sick!
Aru growls and looks over to Damon, who nods, and she lowers her axe. We'll just keep our distance. Damon spends a few minutes examining the skeleton. He slowly bends down to get a closer look at Doru, who has buried his face into the corner, crying. The stone-tiled floor and walls within the corner are covered in deep fingernail scratches, bite marks clearly visible on the metal restraint, and Doru is sat amongst several fresh rabbit cadavers drained of their blood. Another vampire, Damon finally concludes. The rest of the party return. Ains is about to inform the detective about their shenanigans when Doru lets out a blood-curdling scream.
I'm so hungry!
Irina and Ismark keep their distance.
I fed him just this morning. I just don't know what to do.
The priest covers his mouth to prevent himself from crying. Not going to get anything out of him in this state. Damon uncomfortably groans. Animal blood will sustain a vampire, but in order to get them to function, they need humanoid blood. Does anyone have a container? Blossom got this. He shows him a rusted spoon. Damon stares blankly. Next. I got a bottle of holy water. Donnie tilts his head.
Yes, let's see what happens.
Lucian laughs and urges the turtle. That will only worsen this situation. Damon lowers his voice. But keep it close. Ains offers up the empty potion bottle he used earlier. The detective hides behind one of the pillars so Doru cannot see and cuts into his palm, squeezing the blood inside. Doru violently sniffs the air. Drool drips onto the floor. Damon places the bottle to the edge of his reach and backs away. Doru charges at the bottle, the chain cutting into his arms as he forces to pull to the outer limits of his restraint and gulps down, trying to lick the inside of the glass. He stares at Damon.
More. I need more.
He softly pleads. Give me some answers, and we shall see, Damon demands, lifting his notebook from his coat. Tell me what happened at the castle on the night of the rebellion. Damon opens his book and leers at Doru.
There was a huge mage battle, but the wizard was too weak to defeat the Lord's magic. He was thrown from the tower into the river below. I watched as Rahadin cut off the heads of my neighbours. The Lord approached me, said he was merciful and that I would be spared. Next thing I know, he bit me, and the world turned dark. I awoke on the old Svalage road with this burning hunger within me. For blood. Blood. Please, sir, give me blood.
Doru slides the bottle across the floor towards Damon.
Strahd's a vampire?
Ains gasps.
Wait, Strahd's a wizard?
Donnie asks curiously.
Yes, very powerful. Feed me.
Doru holds his stomach and cries out in pain. Damon closes his book slowly and turns to Father Donovich with a dark look on his face. I'm sorry, but I don't think I can help him. Perhaps if I find out more about Strahd, but without the right resources, I'm afraid I'm at a loss. Damon sighs with sadness. Currently, there is only one cure, and you are not willing to walk that path.
No. There is another way, I'm sure of it. I cannot lose my son.
Damon places his hand on the priest's shoulder. I'm sorry.
We can make it quick,
Aru softly states.
Having him chained in here screaming in agony is no way to live,
Ains exclaims.
I cannot.
Donovich pleads.
It is not the will of the Morning Lord to murder. I just need to keep praying. Yes, the Light One will save him.
Donovich falls to his knees and begins to call out to the Morning Lord over the cries of his starving son. Irina places her hand on the priest's shoulder as he recites the same prayer over and over. Damon solemnly closes his eyes and turns to leave the church.
We should return home as soon as possible. We need to plan for our trip,
Ismark regrettably reminds everyone. The noble stares uneasily at the despondent Damon.
Don't worry about him. Thinking is what he's good at.
Aru comforts the siblings and leads everyone outside. Rahadin appears once more and approaches the carriage with a sack over his shoulder. He gives a half smile to the group.
Oh, have you reconsidered my offer?
He puts the sack inside the carriage with various clinks of coins. Ains longingly sighs.
I am just about ready to leave.
The world creeps back into Damon's senses as he manages to pull himself away from his contemplation. He immediately assesses the situation.
Before we can appropriately present ourselves to the Lord, it would be proper to clean ourselves up first. I see. Lord Strahd will be most disappointed.
Rahadin stares over to Irina, who clings to her brother's arm. Damon quickly organizes his thoughts. His oath to protect the nobles and the words of Aru swirl and overpower his worries. A confident smile unravels.
Forgive me, sir. Please pass on my regrets to the Lord. When our business has concluded, we will find our own way to the castle.
Damon hands over a bottle of wine from his pack.
A gift from my homeland for the inconvenience.
Rahadin looks at the label. It reads, Grey Spire Wine, and gives a polite but dissatisfied smile.
Wine! How quaint.
And places the bottle inside the carriage.
I'll make sure it reaches my master.
Damon attempts to be light-hearted while signalling to the party to walk at pace.
No rest for the wicked, as they say.
Indeed, Rahadin mumbles, watching them briskly exit.